right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming on and joining me for my session today. But I just wanted to firstly say my name's Chris Samios, and I am very passionate about what I wanted to talk to you about today because it's a massive milestone for myself, and I just want to start this session first of all because I want to get it going really quickly, because I know that a lot of you might be watching this on record at a later stage on replay, but I've got a little bit to cover, but I'm so grateful that I've been able to do this. Now, today's about identifying why we get stuck in life and how to get out of it. And I just want to start by saying that that this is about 90% of people in life, that they are in this stuck in a rut place. And it's not obviously conducive to being creative and being healthy and happy. And a lot of that has to do with the current way that business is being done, I suppose, in the fact that having an employee mindset over a small business or a big business or an investor mindset, it's a little bit different for each person. But what I'm trying to get at is there's a number of things why we get stuck in life. So let's crack on. Let's get into it. I am recording this, so if you want to watch this at a later stage, you certainly can. And if you've got any questions, you can ask me at any time. So firstly, I just wanted to share some experiences for me in my life and how I've actually become stuck in certain times in my life. And I always remember back when I was a young boy, and I'm thinking around sort of the 9, 10, 11 stage, when I was in primary school. Had this young guy that was new to the school. I was vice captain, and I was very popular amongst all my friends. And this guy ended up coming in, and anyway, his name was Nathan, and one thing led to another. We clashed heads. And what I remember back in that time was that, first of all, we had a number of fights. I think we had between sort of 10 and 15 fights during, probably two years, 5 and 6. And what that did was, at that time, I was very scared. And as anyone would be at that age, having fights and not being accustomed to that, it's not normal. But that set the tone for a number of things for the rest of my life. I remember with him, I was scared, and I was very fearful. And that was the first point in my life that I remember where I actually started to feel fear within my body. And I actually didn't like it. Everyone doesn't like it. But that fear within my stomach, within my heart, within my chest, fight or flight, trying to have a fight and stuff like that. You have that inner fear, and it's not the nicest of feelings, but that actually set a tone for the rest of my life. And what I mean by that is that I actually avoided fear pretty much at all costs. And any time that something like that happened, I used to get really embarrassed. And, I remember when I was going to a school trip down to Sydney by myself, but with everybody on the bus. And at the time, I almost weed myself. Like, it was really embarrassing. And I said so what happened was I was on the bus, and I asked the driver to stop in the middle of the M4 in Sydney. And it was really embarrassing to just have to go to the toilet. And the guys, it got to a point where I was just like, get me off this bus. I want to get off. But anyway, I ended up going to the toilet and that was fine. But then almost 10, 15 minutes later, I needed to go again. And I felt so embarrassed within myself that I actually didn't. And then I ended up weeing my pants. It was just and I had to spend the whole day in Sydney with these anyway, you can only imagine. But that whole experience for me just kept me, I was so fearful. The pain of being able to go through similar circumstances really didn't sit well with me. So that kind of kept me in this average Joe Blow scenario for the rest of my schooling career. In saying that, I excelled in sport, and soccer I was very good at. I was in the local paper, a number of times. And we have this saying back where we grew up is it's like the tall poppy syndrome. And a lot of people try to bash you down. Everyone probably knows about it. Whether you're in the UK, US, or in Australia, you probably already know that, the tall poppy syndrome, the one who is the most popular or doing so well, everyone tries to bring them down. And in Australia, it is a very common practice to be able to do that, unfortunately. But where I grew up, I was a part of that. And that in itself was massive for me, because I was almost getting bullied to the extent of, I was going home crying sometimes, and I'm like 13, 14, 15 years old. Like, that's not normal. You shouldn't be doing that. And, I don't know if you resonate with that, but it happened all throughout my schooling career. And I've basically understood now that situation has manifested in certain other areas in my life. And what I'm trying to get at is, I've identified that the fact is certain things that I do and put myself in a situation, I try to avoid. And I think that in itself is one of the worst things that I can actually do. One of the biggest things about my whole experience with being bullied when I was in school was I used to cop it all the time, and it just used to frustrate the crap out of me. And a lot of people would accept that as normal, and I did to a certain point. And there was just this one time I cracked it, and I think with the help of my dad, the support, he basically alluded to the fact that, son, because he had certain bullying experiences when he was young as well. But he said, you need to stand up for yourself, and that in itself was a big thing for my mind, because I never thought that I should do that, because that was actually putting myself into a fearful state. But you risk way more being in that fearful state than taking a leap of faith and doing something about it. Now, the guy with my bullying situation, I ended up actually retaliating to this guy who was almost 2 feet taller than me at the time. I was fairly small during my high schooling year. And it's funny because I'm also now I'm a little bit bigger than most of my friends, late bloomer, I suppose. But the guy that I had the run-in with bullying, I ended up punching him so hard and he didn't actually expect it, in the cheek. And from that day onwards, it's so funny that he never, ever bullied me again. It was really funny because a lot of people who saw me do that also turned against the bully, and the bully ended up having they felt the fear as well, and they didn't like it. And then they stepped back, and I just thought that was really fascinating. And it's something that, taking me out throughout my life, I've really I've used that a number of times. But this is where you can look back on your life, and you can have certain moments or points that have actually created this fearful state, and you've avoided it. And I think the number one, I suppose, the number one tool that we can actually get out of this fearful state is actually hitting it full on. You know, if you're in business for yourself and you maybe just you don't know, you're doing social media and you're doing all these other things, you're advertising and stuff, but you may not even have your own video. But getting out there and doing your own video and you're putting yourself out there is just one step to be able to face your fear. It may be doing a webinar like this to face that fear. It's just the fact of doing it is a massive thing. I think being stuck in our comfort zones is and it's not the best place to be in. Contentment is one of the worst. I think as much as contentment sounds good, I think it's also it's been a popular self-development term that people have used over the years, but I don't believe that contentment is actually a good thing. I think that we need to be learning and growing gaining knowledge every single day and stepping out and taking risks to be able to start living the potential that we have inside of us. And when you start doing that, you become excited and things become fresh and new, and you become a lot more focused. You don't sit there and dwell on, oh, why aren't I succeeding? Or why aren't I getting the things that I want? Why aren't I attracting the right person into my life? Or whatever it may be. It's being able to face that fear and get out of your comfort zone. And contentment is would be probably my biggest tool to help you be successful or step up a level in your job or career or business or whatever it may be. That in itself. And I suppose I want to challenge you today to identify what that specific thing is that you know that you need to do and you haven't been doing it. And there's so many things that you can do that would change your life massively. And the way I see it is, you're putting yourself out there as an entrepreneur and you're wanting to get your profile out there, and you might be thinking, friends and family are going to think that I'm changed person or whatever it may be. No, you're just adding an additional layer to yourself. You are the same person, but you're also becoming more. You're adding more value to the world, and you're just becoming a newer, fresher version of yourself. Just think of it like that. Instead of thinking and worrying about what other people think, that in itself is a fearful state, and you need to tackle that head on. So that's one of the biggest things that I wanted to bring to this conversation. I know that when we're in our thinking state with these things, we have a lot of limiting beliefs, and broad statements, I think, they mask those, or broad thoughts mask those limiting beliefs that we have within ourselves. And what I'd encourage us to always think when we're thinking about something like, you've got a goal as an example, it might be a certain dollar figure, or it might be a certain level if you're in a network marketing business or something like that. Once you know that goal, dig down and have a think about those limiting beliefs that are coming up. And actually, instead of just stopping there, that broad thought of, I can't do it because the people, my friends might think I'm weird. Get specific about why that is. So if I use that example of my friends, why would my friends think that think bad of me? Well, because they'll think that I'm not the same person as I used to be. And then you ask it, why do you think that they're the same person? Because they may not get to spend more time with you because you're not, whatever it may be, you're doing other things. Why? And just keep digging down to the specific reason, and it might come back as, you don't feel worthy, or whatever it may be. It's that in itself is an understanding, identifying that, and bringing awareness to it will help you immensely, being able to step outside of that and create new habits. And your mind will, the fear around it will go away. You'll be in a new, fresh, creative state every single time. So that's another massive point that I wanted to touch on. The other thing that we all can do, I've got some notes here that I wanted to make sure that I got across, because it's really important to be able to, for me to share this information. I do have a lot that I wanted to talk about, but the other thing was to be another tool that's helped me in a massive way. And you may have already heard the term of grounding, but I'm very fortunate in the fact that I've it's 9:30 on a Tuesday morning after the Easter long weekend. So I'm sitting in our train. We have a train carriage where I do a lot of my work nowadays, and so I'm not tied to a physical job or anything like that. I work remotely, and I have a lot of time freedom. So our house is about 100 meters down the road, and I can go down there and I can have a breakfast or cup of tea or anything like that with my wife and 2 kids anytime that I want. I can go down and I can jump on the trampoline whenever I want. And I've been fortunate in the fact that I've been able to spend a lot of time with Finn and Terza, my kids. And one of the things that I've consciously done is taken my shoes off and just stood there with them in my hands, just on the grass, and grounding myself. And this has just helped me get all my thoughts out of my head into my body. It just clears my whole well-being. And grounding, I think, is probably one of the other biggest tools that I've been able to use to be able to get out of a stuck in a rut or anything like that. So try doing that. I don't know if you've researched grounding, but connecting to the earth, the magnetisms, the negative and positive ions are certainly effective. The negative ions are the good ones, positive ions are the bad ones, and being able to draw, put your feet on the ground and connect with the ground without shoes is an energizing effect, positive and negative together. Obviously, well, you can research it yourself and get a really good understanding of it, but it just brings your thoughts out of your head down into the ground, or it just clears them out. So that's another really big point that I wanted to touch on. So one of the other things, I think in getting stuck out of this inner rut is having a big vision for ourselves. So what I mean by that is something that is not for us. So not having a monetary goal or a personal thing that might be meeting somebody as a person, or it might be a certain health goal or something like that. But no, it's more from a purpose-driven, worldly perspective. So for me, I actually have a vision to be able to help a lot of people who are stuck in that professional corporate career where they're working full time, or let's say they're 50 to 80, 90, 100 hours per week, and helping them realize that there's other options out there in the online business space. And they can create their own personal brand to be able to pull themselves out, create more time, freedom for themselves. That's what my vision is, to be able to help thousands of people around the world I don't want to help hundreds and millions of people because I know that if I can impact at least one person every single day, that I'm going to feel so much more fulfillment out of life. Doesn't matter about the money at all. It's all about how much fulfillment I can have in my life. And that's where the purpose comes from. If you don't have a certain purpose for a bigger vision for the world or society or wherever it may be, to be able to impact them on a positive level, you're not going to be able to have the motivation to wake up every single morning feeling amazing, pumped, and wanting to get cracking. So having that massive goal, stretching yourself out of your comfort zone, having that massive goal is going to just draw you towards that thing that you want. And it doesn't matter whether it's work related, personal, all that kind of stuff. It's more for the fact of how many people can you impact in a positive way with the skills and knowledge that you have. That's another really, really cool tool that anyone can use to be able to get themselves out of that stuck in a rut space. Lastly, I think personally we have a responsibility to excel in all areas of life, and knowledge is the only way we can get that. And I think educating ourselves to be able to do certain things is you're going to step up in that space of where you want to go. And I think knowledge in itself is massive. We have a digital education academy where we teach skills for people to have an online business, creating autoresponders, setting up websites, doing blogs, stretching your SEO, social media, everything to having funnels. We teach I help people with creating funnels to be able to help them leverage their time. It's all about the systemization where you create things once and you create systems around that which can free yourself up. And I think that education in itself is one of the most powerful things. If you're stuck in a rut, you're in effect, you're not learning. You're not being creative. You're not understanding how to actually get out of where you are. And that's where, when you have knowledge, combine knowledge with action, it's very powerful. And that's one of the biggest things that I love about waking up in my day now, is that I can have a positive impact on helping people create a system where they can free themselves up to do the things that they want to do. And I'm so grateful for that. I touched on it before, but contentment is one of the worst, I think, personally. Is it keeps people in a same state, of where they are. And unless you're in a place where you've created a business or create a situation where you're impacting massive amounts of people and you're living on purpose, being in a contentment state is not going to be conducive to being creative or anything like that. So that was the other big thing. So that is where I wanted to, I suppose, leave the conversation. There's a few things that I've touched on today that I feel that we could go in to greater detail for so much more, but let's continue the conversation. If you're interested in learning more, let's stay connected. and ask me any questions. I think we're I want to set an example in your life where you can actually make at least one fearful action or action that can conquer fear. And if you can do that every week, at least one massive thing, and that, whatever that is, you already know what it is, the thing that scares you the most and that you know that you need to do. If you can do that, and I can help you be accountable for that, that'd be the only thing that I'd want out of this conversation. That's the only thing that I want from me being able to come out and speak about this. So thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. And that's where I just wanted to cover everything. So let's stay in touch, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and we'll talk soon. Take care.